Hello and welcome to video number 3 out of 6 keys to living a bulletproof life. What does that really mean? I kind of covered that in the intro. Make sure you check it out if you haven't. It's right somewhere here. And check out the first 2 videos if you have not yet done so. And also make sure to subscribe. And does YouTube still do the little bell thing? I don't know. But to make sure you don't miss the next 3 keys. So if you have noticed, you may have not, that I very intentionally made the first 2 keys, actually the first 3, today's also going to be a part of that, in form of a question. Now, why did I do that? Because your intuition is always there for you. It's always available to you. Your guidance is always speaking to you, however you want to personify it. But here's the thing. Most people are completely blocked off from it. We're not open to it. So when we ask something in form of a question, and this is why one of the first things that came for me, my guidance was just ask your question so specifically and very clearly. One of the ways that our mind is there kind of willing to open a window to our guidance, to our intuition, is when we ask very specific questions, because we are basically telling the mind, find a solution. And the mind, from being completely blocked out from everything, like, well, okay, maybe this could be a solution. So it's opening up to the guidance that's always available. Like the guidance is just doing nothing but giving you solutions. But your mind is usually closed off to that. So this is why the first 3 keys to kind of just get comfortable with this were created in form of questions. So are you ready to hear the third one? The third key to living a bulletproof life. Let's dive right in. Okay, so this key, although it is in question format, I do want to explain to you what I really mean by that. And again, bring in an example so you understand that this isn't just theoretical. I'm not just telling you stories here, but this is what was lived by another person and what another person broke through and how this applied and just transformed their life, and therefore it can transform yours as well. So a man that I was working with he was very successful, but he felt like there was a cap on his income. It's like, I'm comfortable and that's it. And there was so much shame, and this is similarly to that what I shared in the first video, that those clients were very similar, that there was this shame if I get something that I really like or I really want. But this client had something a little bit deeper. He was always stuck between the past of things could have been different, or maybe if I showed up this way, to the future of I better make sure this doesn't happen, or I better make sure that it creates. So basically there was this wanting to control the future. I needed to be in this particular way. Now, that is natural. Both of those are so natural because that's where the ego lives. The ego, your mind, lives in past memories, right? Because it sources from that. Okay, I've had this experience, and this is how our belief systems are formed as we're children. I've had this experience. I created a meaning. I assigned a meaning to what this experience means, and therefore I'm going to project that into the future to make sure I don't do that thing, for example, that didn't work, or I will do that thing that did work to make sure that I get those exact results. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes it does. Oftentimes it doesn't. Why? Because the meaning that we assigned is so limited. For example, you may have, as a child, overheard, and this is something that I dive deep with my one-on-one clients, because we have this, just money is a big one for many people. And there's just so much baggage and so many blocks around money, around what wealth is, and around, I just want to be comfortable. So guess what? People are going to cap their income right at that comfort level. Even though they could be making more, they're just going to be subconsciously stopping themselves, whether they're going to be spending it, they're going to be manifesting circumstances, people who take away their money, or like they have to spend that money that they made if it's a little bit extra from that comfort zone. So just all kinds of things. So one of the things that I dive deep with is the money story. And what are those belief systems that originated? So completely innocent, right? Let's say you were 4 years old and you're just playing, and then you feel this lack of safety because you hear arguing in the other room. And you don't understand what it is. You're just there playing, right? But there's that, okay, this doesn't feel good. Like the energy of that, and kids are so sensitive to energy. So the energy of that doesn't feel good. So maybe you may go there and see what's happening. And you hear your mom and dad argue about money. And then in that moment, the 4-year-old creates a belief system. It assigns meaning to, oh, I hear money. Or maybe it might actually not even be repetitive. It can be as severe as just you hear it once. There's a big emotional response. Like if you really don't feel safe, like, okay, there was a lot of yelling, or like this thing happened, or like, maybe doors were slammed. Like there's just a lot of emotional unsafety. It doesn't even have to be a repetitive thing. Like my parents always argued about money. It could be just one highly emotional moment. And the mind of that 4-year-old created meaning. Money means bad. Money means conflict. I don't want to have anything to do with that. And that is where the money story is. And therefore, you have to earn money. You have this, it's a big part of our world or our society. But you would take that story, your mind would take the story from the past and put it into the future that I don't want to have too much money because that means problems. That means I'm not safe. That means those emotions that I just don't have the ability to process. As an adult, you do have the ability to process them. But because it seems so scary and traumatic in your childhood, you don't want to go there. So this is why it doesn't work. The meaning that we assign, it's not that money was evil. It's just two people were arguing about it, okay? It happens. It's not something to just say, okay, no more money. But that is how our mind, those are the stories that our mind creates to keep us safe. Because at that point, again, that was a very emotional state that your mind cognitively did not know how to process it. A 4-year-old doesn't have the ability to self-soothe and is looking for guidance from parents. So when your parents are in that state, like, okay, that must be evil, like money must be evil. And then that's just one example. There's just so many more stories that we say, what we hear about money and so on. And again, money is, just one example. But the point I'm trying to make here, and I hope I'm making it, is that your ego will take the past things and consider the future things. But the mind cannot live in the present moment. The mind cannot live in the now. It's terrified being in now. Have you tried to meditate at some point and you would have all these thoughts come to you? Like your mind just doesn't want to stay still. And I've actually had some friends of mine who were saying, my meditation is kind of entertaining those thoughts and see where they lead me. And I go, that's great in the sense of a connection practice of what does your mind want to say right now. And I know that that's what I started because I was just not listening to my mind and just what does that part of me want? What are their fears? Its fears. What are its insecurities? So that is an important part. However, that's not meditation. Meditation's coming into the present moment. It can be something as being present. It doesn't mean just sitting with your eyes closed. It can be washing the dishes. It can be cleaning. It can be doing something you love, doing woodwork or painting, or just when you're so present, there's nothing outside of this moment. The mind hates that. It's okay when you're doing an activity because it kind of gets bored and allows you to be present because it doesn't feel threatened. However, when you're trying to meditate, it doesn't like that. It doesn't like it because it doesn't feel safe. And the present moment is exactly where your point of power is. There's nothing outside of now. So the ego is trying to create this story that isn't real. The past, there could have been interpretations, stories. So many of us, you could have one event that 5 people witnessed. All 5 people will have their own interpretation of that event. Who's to say was the truth? You all have your own truth. There's no absolute truth of this is what this event was. Everybody had their own story. Future projections, they haven't happened yet. That's not real either. So stories over there, stories over there. The present moment is real, but your mind doesn't want you to be there. So the question, the third key to living a bulletproof life is, you guessed it, living in the present. But I am curious if you can go through your day asking yourself, who's really in charge? Because your soul, your heart, like that inner being, the you that you are, your essence, wants you to be present because it's in that moment that you can actually experience life. It's when you get out of, I know this person, that you can actually have a conversation and get curious and experience them anew. Think about when you're traveling somewhere and you're just in awe and you're so excited and you see just so much life and, vibrant colors, and there's just so much more excitement because you're willing to be present with. Because you don't know it. You know nothing about this place. You don't have stories replaying in your mind. So your mind is just trying in this place of processing. This is new. This is exciting. Think of a new relationship, same thing. It's like, ooh, this person is new and exciting. I want to get to know them. I'm really present with. And then what happens? Or let's say if you're not traveling, maybe you move to a new place and everything's new and exciting. And then what happens? Then your mind goes into the I know. I know this story. I'm not experiencing this present moment anymore. I know. And I can predict what it's going to be like in the future. Now that seems like a safe plan. However, that keeps you from experiencing life. And then people have this quarter life crisis, midlife crisis of, isn't my life supposed to be more? It's more every day. Your life is more every single day, but you're not here to experience it because you're over there in the past or you're over there in the present and you're not here. It's happening right now. You can change everything right now. You can change your patterns. You can show up as a different person right now. But that's so difficult to do for so many people because we're used to that, because the ego knows all of your pain points. The ego knows exactly how to get you to keep you out of the present moment. It's not bad. It's just wired for survival. But if you're wired for happiness, if you know, because there is a part of you, there's that essence, that soul, that's heart's calling, that is there to, I'm here to live my potential. I'm here to be the most abundant, rich, wealthy person. I don't just mean financially, but that's included. Because why would you hold yourself back? But in all aspects of your life, I'm here to experience the richness of life. So if you want to go towards that, I'm opening 2 spots for my Self-Mastery 101 program. And that is a 3-month container where it's personalized as a private program. It's basically, we meet weekly. There's also subconscious recordings that are personalized for you to just go so much faster with this reprogramming process, because some people take years to do that. And yes, you can do that, but that's not how I work. And I want to, because it's important for me to create impact. And I know that when I work with a particular client, and I don't work with everyone, and this is why I'm going to get into the clarity call in a minute, but when I work with someone, I love working with people who are there to create impact. Because I know that I'm not just working with this one person, I'm working with everybody who they're impacting. Their energy and me supporting them and their frequency enables that ripple effect. And that's what I'm here for personally. That's my journey. So if this is something that resonates with you, you can reach out to me. There's going to be a link below, or DM me on my Instagram at The Spiritual Analyst, and we can get on a clarity call. Now, the clarity call doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to work together. I just actually had one this morning, and it's just for me to understand what is your vision, whether you're clear about your vision, because if you're kind of all over the place, my goal is to bring you to what is your vision, what are your next steps. And you may not be in the place of being ready to work on this deeply. You may need something else, and then I would suggest a book or a tool or one of my free resources that I have on my website. So getting on that clarity call is just you taking the time for you to get really clear on what do you want. What is your next step, so that you can actually move towards that and not being in the story of the mind of the past, and the future is all there is, and missing out on life. And the past and the future is also where we're programmed, because it's not control. We have choice, but we don't realize that we have choice. I know that where I am right now from where I was years ago, I didn't know that this was possible. And when I started working with my coaches, with my teachers, with my spiritual teachers as well, mentors, I was just getting on calls sometimes just with this, I just need you to tell me that's possible. Like, I don't believe it. I know that you're living that life, but I don't believe it, because I have never seen anything like that in my close proximity. So this is the trap of the mind. We're replicating those experiences from our teeny tiny limited box. Well, there's just such a variety of experiences and of things that you can have and do and be. So the question for today, the step number 3, who is actually in charge? Who's running the show right now? Am I being present right now? No. Who's running the show? Who's taking me out? And it's the ego. And you can just say, I love you. Thank you. I hear you. And it's a deeper process to be able to listen to that, because once you listen to it, it actually calms down. And again, this is something that I do with my one-on-one clients, but just becoming aware of who's running the show. And again, if you do want to dive deeper into this, the link is below to work with me one-on-one, and I would love to hear from you.